"Freeze, Thing," Emily said as he froze into the shape of a coffee table. Emily reluctantly opened the door. "I'm sorry about the noise, Mrs. McIlvray," she said. "I was practicing ballet." Mrs. McIlvray looked past her into the living room, which had become rather disarranged during the game of kick the carton. "I thought ballet was supposed to be pretty and graceful and quiet," she said frostily. "And that is a very odd coffee table you have there, made out of green concrete too. I don't think I can allow you to have concrete furniture in this flat. It might damage the floors." She came inside and peered critically at Thing, who had his head tucked under his stomach and his tail tucked under to meet it. "It's not even very well designed either," said Mrs. McIlvray. "I should know, as I collect antique furniture, and I am an expert about good design. What are all these odd flaps sticking up on the surface? Most illogical, if you ask me." She put on her reading glasses to examine Thing more closely and tweaked the blades along his spine. She was very surprised when they moved. "They're specially made like that," Emily said quickly. "They're to hold magazines and dried flower arrangements and cups of coffee." "I really don't know how your mother could have bought such a frightful table. Just look at those heavy, thick legs. They'll wear down the pile on my carpet. You must tell your mother that this thing has got to go back to wherever it came from." Thing heard her, and he was dreadfully upset. He remembered being in the rock egg at the sports oval, which hadn't been nearly as nice as Emily's place. As Emily's patted him, he unfroze and whimpered and scuttled over to Emily and hid his face in front of her wind cheater. "It's sort of mechanical table," Emily said desperately. "It can be used as a dish trolley." "You naughty little girl," scolded Mrs. McIlvray. "You know very well it's a nasty, extinct animal of some kind. I'm certainly not having a dinosaur living in my block of flats. It belongs in a glass case in a museum. I'll give you until tomorrow night to arrange for its removal. And what's more, it has to stay out the backyard while you're at school and your mother is at work. But it has to be gone by tomorrow evening." Emily felt so sad she could hardly bear it. Her mother, when she came home, went downstairs to plead with Mrs. McIlvray, but it was useless. They gave Thing a wonderful feast of every vegetable and fruit that they had in the kitchen and let him stay up past midnight to watch the late movie. But in the morning, Mrs. McIlvray made them put him out into the backyard. Chapter 6. Emily went to school crying so hard she had to pretend that she had hay fever, and Things stayed in the backyard. There was nothing happening there except leaves falling from Mrs. McIlvray's maple tree. Thing wondered why Emily hadn't brought down his TV set and plugged it in. He didn't like being in the yard very much. He chased after the drifting leaves and played with the handle on the Hills Hoist clothesline. Mrs. McIlvray came out and scolded him sharply. She wound down the handle so tightly that it couldn't budge, and then she went out shopping. Thing looked wistfully over the front fence, but he knew he wasn't allowed to go out there without Emily to tell him when to freeze. While Mrs. McIlvray was away, a van was driven into the driveway of the block of flats, and two men got out. Thing froze quickly into something that looked like the length of a pebbled patio. The men didn't knock on the door or open it with a key. Instead, they pulled up the rubbish bin and stood on it and pushed in a fly screen window to climb into the ground floor flat. Then they opened the door from the inside. They came out with Mrs. McIlvray's antique oak writing desk, which was extremely valuable, and her jewel box, and Emily's mother's electric sewing machine. After a while, they came out carrying Mrs. McIlvray's fur coat and her stereo and her record player and her new electric freezer. They put them into the van and went back inside the flats again. Thing was delighted to see the sewing machine being taken away. He thought Emily would be pleased too. She had to make an apron to pass a school craft examination, and she wasn't very good at sewing. She had looked glum while she was pinning on bias binding and sewing it, and then unpicking it again because she had sewn it on back to front. Thing didn't like to see her look miserable. The two men went inside and came out with Mrs. McIlvray's antique jade and ivory statues and her 19th century clock and put them in the van. On the last trip of all, they came out with Thing's TV set. Thing wagged his tail because he thought these men might kindly plug the TV in somewhere and he could watch all the afternoon programs instead of chasing maple leaves. But they put the TV set in the van with all the other items they had removed from Mrs. McIlvray's flat and from Emily and her mother's flat. Then they shut the door of the van. Thing unfroze a great deal more. He knew that his TV set contained all sorts of exciting things like cowboy movies and yoga 5-minute exercises and how to grow better roses and Fred Flintstone shows and cooking with Geoffrey and everything he liked to watch. And he wasn't going to let anyone take all that away. He unfroze completely. He went round behind the van and tried to open the door with his nose. When that didn't work, he stretched out his neck and nudged the two men very politely. One of them turned ivory and the other one turned jade, just like Mrs. McIlvray's antique ornaments, and they leapt into the van and slammed the door shut. They rolled up the windows at a tremendous speed, sealing themselves in like canned sardines. They couldn't back the van out into the street because Thing took up a great deal of space, and he sat down and waited patiently for them to get out and unpack his TV set. So they just sat in the van and looked very upset and unhappy. Chapter 7. Thing was still sitting and waiting when Mrs. McIlvray returned from shopping. At first she looked annoyed to see that he had got into her driveway, but then she noticed the broken fly-wire screen and the van crammed with all her valuable possessions. Through the back of the window of the van, Mrs. McIlvray could see that her fur coat was getting very squashed. She dropped her basket and ran down the street to fetch the constable from the police station. "We've been trying to catch those two burglars for months," the constable said. "They're a wicked, scheming, crafty, slippery pair of crooks. I'll take them down to the police station and then I'll come back for the van. But would you kindly ask your dinosaur to step aside out of the way?" The two burglars didn't look wicked or scheming. When they had to step over Thing's tail and be taken down to the police station, they looked very pale and worried. Mrs. McIlvray opened the van door and began to take her antiques inside, and Thing sat very quietly and humbly with his tail tucked out of the way so he wouldn't be a nuisance. But when Mrs. McIlvray finished, she didn't look at him crossly. She bent down and patted him on the head. "You needn't stay out in the drafty yard," she said. "You can wait in my flat until Emily gets home from school." Thing wagged his tail and followed her inside, carrying his TV set in his mouth. Mrs. McIlvray plugged it in and switched it on for him. He watched all his favourite afternoon shows, and when there was a demonstration on how to fold origami paper into interesting shapes, Mrs. McIlvray even cut up some bright gift wrapping paper so he could practice. Telling Thing how grateful she was that he had saved all her precious belongings. When Emily came home still looking very hay-feverish, Thing was helping Mrs. McIlvray unpack her shopping and stack it away in the right shelves. "I'm sorry he got out of the backyard," Emily said, "and I couldn't find any kid who could give him a good home. Everyone's mothers said no, they couldn't. No one seems to want a stegosaurus. I guess I'll just have to telephone the museum." She couldn't even bear to look at Thing. It was heartbreaking to think of your best friend permanently frozen and labelled in a glass box. She looked instead at Mrs. McIlvray, who was making a very expensive salad of broccoli, eggplant and avocado pear, decorated with little radish roses. Mrs. McIlvray put the bowl of elegant salad on the floor in front of Thing. along with a basket of seasonal fruits. Thing looked up at her lovingly before settling down to eat his delicious meal. "Museum?" Mrs. McIlvray said indignantly. "What on earth are you talking about, Emily? If you don't mind my mentioning it, dear, this dinosaur of yours watches far too much television. It can't be very good for him. While you're at school during the day, I'll take him for a nice healthy run in the park after we've had our lunch." From then on, Emily met Thing and Mrs. McIlvray after school in the park every day. And when they all went home together, Mrs. McIlvray never minded that Thing's muddy footprints were up the steps. The end.